Hello there. Thanks so much for joining me today. I'm Colleen Klimczak. I'm an organizational and productivity coach and a certified professional organizer. I own Peace of Mind Professional Organizing, LLC. Since 2003, I've been helping my clients live better lives through organizing and organizational and productivity coaching. I support my clients and my community with coaching, in-person and virtual organizing, my weekly podcast called Your Organized Life with Colleen Klimczak, a free weekly virtual productivity session called Finish Line Friday, a free weekly email newsletter, and regular content on Facebook and Instagram. I also offer presentations and professional development to groups and companies. And coming soon, I will be launching a membership circle to support my community with even more coaching and productivity content. Want to finish strong this week? Join me for Finish Line Friday every Friday morning at 9 a.m. Central for a 2-hour productivity session. Drop me an email at colleen@peaceofmindpo.com to request my Zoom room link or follow the Zoom room link on my Instagram or Facebook pages. Welcome to Your Organized Life, episode 131. A few weeks back, I was asked to create content for a spring professional development session at a local community college. And the theme for the day is summer camp and preparedness. And you may not know this, but I am singularly qualified to talk about summer camp and preparedness. When I started to think about what I wanted to talk about, what came to me was productivity lessons or life lessons from summer camp because, well, I'm me, and the coordinator of the Professional Development Day knows my skill set. So why am I singularly qualified for this? If you are reading or listening to this content, you know that I talk about productivity and time management and life management. And what you may not know is that I was the Cub Master for our local Cub Scout pack for many years after being a scout mom and a pack leader for years before that. So I know a lot about camp, at least from the parent and leader perspective. So let's have a little fun today. Since June is just around the corner, let's open up to how we want our summer to roll out. We can learn a lot about productivity and life from summer camp, even if we aren't going to camp ourselves. So the first lesson we can learn is the importance of being out in nature. There is a concept called green therapy. It's an acknowledgement that we all feel better when we spend at least a little time in nature or have the influences of nature around us. Of course, being outside and outside in nature is best, but it can also be a pretty view or some greenery like houseplants. Per allintherapy.com and carepatron.com, green therapy, sometimes referred to as ecotherapy or nature therapy, is the therapeutic application of the natural world to promote both physical and emotional well-being. Spending time outside and in natural environments has been clinically proven to improve mood and boost our feelings of happiness and contentment. It's known to improve our brain function, it can improve our physical health, and it can improve our mental health. And these benefits may be because, per the websites, of the sensory experiences that nature provides, like the sounds of birds chirping, or the sight of greenery and beauty, or maybe the feel of a gentle breeze or the sun on our skin. Time in nature lowers cortisol levels, which is our stress hormone. It also lowers blood pressure and heart rate. And that all indicates a decrease in stress. So what does that look like for you and me, right? That looks like us getting outside at least a little every day. I was talking to a friend over the weekend, and we were both talking about how wonderful we feel when we get to work in our gardens. I planted my herbs the other morning outside at like 6 a.m. I know, I was up. But that hour spent outside improved my mood all day long. And we can bring the outside in, too. We can bring nature inside, too, with like pets or houseplants or nature soundscapes, whatever that looks like, right? So I use the Calm app. And I use the Calm app to fall asleep sometimes to the sounds of forest rains or ocean waves, right? So those are just some ideas how to work on that green therapy. The next lesson that we can learn is that a variety of activities is good for us. At camp, we learn, for little kids and big kids alike, that a good quality of life means a variety of activities. So maybe we want to make sure that we shake up our days and change up our activities to avoid burnout. Having variety in our day keeps us engaged and can be fun. And we can benefit from not doing the same things all day, every day. And the question is, along with all of these lessons today, knowing what we now know, how do we apply this for ourselves? So just planting those seeds, right? And relatedly to having a variety of activities, it's also good for us to learn new things, new activities. Summer camp is a great time to learn new skills. So it's kind of a created situation, right? Summer camp is a created situation, meaning it's not our day-to-day. And it also provides learning opportunities that we might not usually have. So camp might be for sports or band or specific activities, but sometimes it's just fun things to do in the summer. So my sons learned at Scout Camp things that we can only learn at Scout Camp, like archery or boat safety or swimming or knot tying or woodcraft or even Dutch oven cooking. And they loved learning those new things, and they still use some of those skills today. So again, how do we apply that to ourselves? This week, you could think about something you'd love to learn more about or would love to learn how to do, and maybe check out local resources or on YouTube to learn something new this summer. For example, we were at a music festival yesterday, and I was inspired by a ukulele band. They were so cool. But I was inspired by a couple of the acts, and I noted a couple songs that I want to learn on my ukulele this summer. So what is that for you, right? Summer camp also reminds us of the importance of finding our people. Camp is great for making new friends or returning to our camp friends every summer. When we go to camp, the expectation is that we're open to meeting new people and having new experiences. At least that's my memory of camp. And we also get to see friends at camp that we haven't seen since last summer. So it's both making new friends and also rekindling friendships in life. We are also reminded at camp, at least on the trails and woods at camp where we were, to travel with a buddy or two. At Scout Camp, at Owassapee in northern Michigan, we always used the buddy system because no one was supposed to walk alone. So again, how do we apply the lessons here? We don't all have to make new friends if that seems daunting, but summer is a great time to reconnect with friends and family that you haven't seen over the winter. Take a few moments to consider who you miss, who you would really love to connect with or reconnect with, and reach out to set something up. Maybe you bring them along on your green therapy outdoor walks or to the new class that you want to try to learn new skills. Another lesson we learn is that we need structure in our days. So think about camp and the structure of most camps. There is definitely structure in the day. The campers get up at a certain time, and there might be lights out at a certain time. Now, we know as adults that a lot of the structure at camp is about logistics, right? So with a camp full of young people who need to sleep and eat and stay safe and do fun things, right? We need the structure. But we also can see that structure is how we manage to fit in all the fun things. Asking again, what does that look like for us? Did you know that May is National Review Your Work Schedule Month? Yes, it really is. Only weird people like me know this, but it's the truth. So we can consider this an opportunity to look at how we manage to make room in the day and the week for the fun stuff too. And as we're looking at scheduling, we also need to remember that we need to have a cushion for adjustment, either when we get to camp or when we get home, right? So it usually takes campers a day or two to adjust to camp, and it also takes us a day or two at least at the end to get back to normal. One thing we can remember, though, as we're looking at maybe moving our routines around and our structure, is that needs don't change, because camp reminds us also that needs don't change. Even when you're at camp, regardless of what my little Cub Scouts and Weeblos thought, you still have to go to bed and you have to sleep. You still have to eat food and respect your allergies. You still have to take a shower and take care of basic hygiene, like I said, regardless of what my young charges believed. Because yes, I was at camp too. I slept in a tent one year and a cabin a couple other years. So yes, I did. And camp and life remind us that needs don't change. We need to respect the needs and make sure that we meet the needs. And what does that look like for you and me, right? Another lesson we learned from camp is that we all can benefit from mandatory downtime. And I don't just mean at bedtime. At scout camp, there was something called shoes off time. And that was a mandatory quiet time in the afternoon. And honestly, it might have just been a break for the leaders because we, the leaders, wanted a nap too. But the expectation was that the campers would do something quiet for a little bit, right? Have their shoes off in their tent, like take a nap or a rest. Or maybe they would play board games or cards in the dining fly, which is the common space, like the common big tent in each campsite. Something quiet, something chill, something independent, having that little bit of rest. And again, how do we apply that to ourselves? We can plan downtime in our day to take a little break, a little checkout. Maybe that's your green therapy break outside in nature, but we can recognize the value of it and make it regular so there's something to look forward to. An important lesson from camp is taking the occasional break from technology as well. When I started to write this, there was a text exchange from my family, and my oldest brother had left his phone at home. I could put that in quotation marks, I suppose. We don't know if he left it at home by accident or maybe on purpose. I don't know. So my sister-in-law texted that if we needed them to just text her because they were together at a high school baseball tournament, and he wouldn't answer. And it did make me remember that a secret to success at camp for my boys was that technology was not allowed. Cell phones were supposed to be off and put away. Honestly, with the younger scouts, some of them didn't have phones yet anyway, but the older kids weren't supposed to have phones on them. And honestly, for the longest time, there was absolutely no signal where we were in northern Michigan. So even if you had a phone, it didn't do you much good. But the point was to intentionally step away from technology once in a while. Sometimes we need to do that, and that is where the real relaxation can happen and the real connection with others can happen, and with ourselves. All of those things can happen maybe when we don't have the distraction of technology. And finally, it was scout camp after all. So the last lesson is to be prepared. Whether you are traveling to camp or anyone else is this summer or traveling anywhere else, having a standard packing list is going to help. Yes, a list. There are some things that we need to pack with us no matter what, regardless of our destination. And it's so easy in the moment to forget an item or two. Now, forgetting something might just be a nuisance, like maybe you have to stop and buy sunscreen when you get to the beach instead of, packing it. But it could also be something more dire, like forgetting necessary medications. So I'm not going to go too deep into this because there are thousands of packing list suggestions and templates online, so just Google them. But I do recommend personalizing your own list for yourself and for your situation. I've talked about this in the past, but refine your toiletries in your kit. And if you travel often, leave it packed. Since we're talking about summer, I also recommend, bringing bug spray and Benadryl, packing a first aid kit, and packing sunscreen and also after sun lotion, right? We want to be prepared, but sometimes things still happen. And then a few actual clothing packing tips. Yes, we can take life tips from packing for camp. At camp, everyone dresses the same. So we can also extrapolate that when we travel, let's be honest, we may never see the people that we see when we travel. We may never see them again. So lower your variety standards, but not your hygiene or self-respect. So yeah, we don't have to impress people. We can just pack, right? One thing I recommend is to pick a color scheme for travel. For example, I like most shades of blue. And for summer, most of my bottoms are neutrals like gray or khakis or blue. So I can mix and match with a variety of tops and accessories, right? So stick with a color scheme and you'll find you need to pack less overall. Something that came up just yesterday with friends, use packing cubes. Oh, they really are the best. And you can get really expensive ones from a luggage company, or you can go on Amazon and get a set of 4 for $20. But they really do just make life so much simpler when you travel. Something that we did for the kids at camp was rolling their clothes or packing their outfits together. And that takes up a lot less space and also leaves decision-making out of the mix, which can be helpful. Finally, of course, check the weather where you're going and adjust your packing list accordingly. Consider your contingencies. So, to recap, what lessons have we learned from camp that can help us to be more productive and happier and successful this summer? The first is the importance of being outside in nature. We've also looked at how a variety of activities is good for us and that learning new things can be fun. We've also been reminded that we need to find our friends. We need to build and maintain friendships and a community that supports us. We were reminded that at least a little structure in our days helps us make room for the important and fun stuff. And yet, we need to make sure that we make room for our needs because needs don't change. We were also reminded to take a break once in a while, including a break from technology if possible. And then we looked at some packing tips, right? We really can learn from every experience, and we can learn about productivity from every experience as well, and getting the right things done. That is, after all, what productivity coaching is all about. If it's time to invest in yourself and explore coaching for organizing and productivity, I would love to hear from you. Drop me a line via email at colleen@peaceofmindpo.com or message me through my social media platforms like Facebook, Instagram, or LinkedIn. Thank you so much, and I will talk to you next week.